My question next, Adrian, is to go back to 2007 and to the actual charges, the actual sort of questions in this case, because Zuma is the third respondent. Who are the other two and what are the charges about?
So this case was brought by the DA shortly after the NPA decided to withdraw the charges. I still remember Helen Zille, leader of the DA then, outside the offices of the National Prosecuting Authority. She was standing there that day and she was ashen. She was so shocked. She couldn't believe what had just happened inside. And she said that day on the pavement, in I think the 6th of April 2009, she said that we will fight this case in court. It is now 7 years later, and she's been vindicated by the North Gauteng High Court that indeed Mshe should not have done what he did. So the DA brought this case to court. They were the applicants. The respondents has always been President Zuma himself, who was the accused, the arms company Tint, and then also the National Prosecuting Authority, Mshe himself, who withdrew the charges. What these charges were about is basically two corruption charges. So the first one was about the arms deal. And this is where a company called Tint was awarded a part of the Corvette contract. A secretary working for Tint in South Africa one day saw a document which then came to be known as the French fax. And this French fax was a document purportedly confirming a bribe paid by this French company to Zuma through Sheikh. That was the first charge of corruption, literally one bribe of 500,000 rand, which Sheikh was convicted of. The second charge of corruption was about the series of 783 payments. You would have heard that,
yes,
that number a lot. And I
number.
think a lot of people get confused. It's not 783 charges, it's 783 payments that was made by Sheikh and or his companies on behalf of Zuma and his family.
Wow.
These were things like car valet, school fees, the bond payment, the car on his rental installment, new tires for his car. I remember seeing those schedule of payments in the Sheikh trial when I covered that trial, and it was literally files and files of numbers and slips and receipts of all these payments. And of course, during that stage already, we learned that President Zuma does not earn enough money to upkeep his own family. He just plainly doesn't have enough income to look after his extended family and to pay all the expenses. So he needed extra money, needed extra income. At that time, the Shabir Sheikh provided this to him. And that was the second charge. It was just over 4 million rand worth of payments, the 783 payments. And what Judge Squires found in that case was that there was, in his words, a mutually symbiotic relationship, yes, between the two of them. That Sheikh, as a businessman, paid Zuma, the politician, who was then an MEC in KZN. He wasn't even on the national scale. But he paid him and he bought him, that he had him in his pocket and he could use him at any stage he needed political backing. There were examples in the case where Zuma accompanied Sheikh to certain meetings with potential investors in South Africa. And Zuma would at the meeting say to this investor, listen, take Sheikh, my friend here, as your partner. And the investors would testify they felt uncomfortable. They felt like they were being forced here by the politician who's going to award the tender to take this man as their business partner. Of course, we later found out why he did that, because Sheikh was paying for him. So that's almost a classic quid pro quo corruption. But those are the two main charges that Zuma faces. Firstly, the arms deal bribe, and secondly, the 783 payments from Sheikh.
I suppose skeptics would then look to the Seriti Commission and say, well, you know, the whole arms deal has been proven not to be a deal in that very loaded term. It's been shown to be above board and everything kind of went swimmingly.
The Seriti Commission was problematic on a number of levels. Firstly, it was a judicial commission of inquiry, so it had much less powers than a court case and a criminal court case. It didn't call all the relevant witnesses, for example. I don't think the commission dealt in any extent, in any depth with the Sheikh matter. No testimony was given by the forensic experts from KPMG, for example, who brought the evidence in the Sheikh trial. No schedule of payment to President Zuma and his family. No payments from the French. They really focus on the big contracts, the German contracts, the British contracts. So I don't think the Seriti Commission really brought any more answers to the questions about the arms deal. And I think a lot of those questions will remain unanswered, unfortunately. It was an effective tool for President Zuma to get rid of the arms deal. It's now got this card saying Seriti Commission that he can show when anybody asks him about the arms deal and say, well, a commission looked at this and found that there was nothing wrong in the deal, which is, of course, far from the truth. But President Zuma's problems remain. These charges will not disappear. Judge Ledwaba said this morning that Zuma must face these charges. He must somehow respond to these charges, and one of them deals with the arms deal. He has to explain why he met executives of Thales, the French company, in Paris. There's proof, there's diary entries, there's meetings in Durban, there's meetings in Paris, there was a meeting in London where he met them, and according to the evidence in the case, asked them again to take Sheikh as their business partner. This is corruption. If you're being paid by someone and you're advancing their business, that is corruption. And President Zuma will have to have his day in court. He might try and postpone this for another 2-3 years, but a time will come, if you have to listen to Judge Ledwaba this morning, when he will have to tell court why he did this.